You know, some might say that I'm late to the party on this, considering the fact that the obsession with no more heroes within the Countdown community died out a while ago. But the thing is, I've only played the games recently, so yeah, I have an excuse. Plus, it's not like I take orders from other Countdown makers to begin with. But anyway, onto the topic at hand. For those who've never heard of it, the No More Heroes games are a really fun 3D beat-em-up series that has some of the best bosses in any video game. Also, one warning I should just give off the bat is that there's a lot of blood in the No More Heroes series, so if you're uncomfortable with that, you should probably leave now. For this list, while I'll be taking the character into account as well as the music, gameplay will be my main focus. So in other words, no Dr. Peace. So with all that explaining out of the way, let's begin the list. Kicking off the list, we've got Nathan Copeland. Kind of fitting to start off the list with him considering the fact that he's the first boss in No More Heroes 2 to actually have a level. So yeah, this guy's both a rapper and a cult leader that has a boombox that can turn into armor. Oh, and his boombox can also shoot rockets too. But to me, his boombox isn't even the most memorable part of this fight. For me, the most memorable part is how he activates a bunch of traps in the room you're in. He's got a falling chandelier, lasers, and even moving floor panels. And in the end, he actually wants you to kill him because he feels the world's all glitter, no soul. Overall, this was a pretty interesting boss battle. Oh boy, if the commentators weren't already going to kill me for making a No More Heroes video in 2016, they certainly are now for only putting Alice at number 9. But before you leave a slew of angry comments, you might actually want to listen to what I have to say. First off, the fight itself is really good. It manages to be an even matchup despite it being 1 or 2 beam katanas against 5. The atmosphere looks good, the music's pretty good, everything about the fight itself is really good. But about this fight being an emotional climax for Travis, I honestly feel it was kind of overhyped. I mean, Alice going on about how Travis was the only one who actually managed to escape the UAA was actually a pretty interesting angle. But in terms of it being how Travis finally realizes that killing's not worth it, you do realize they've been working at that angle for a while now, right? I mean, they've been doing that kind of angle ever since Holly Summers in the first game. This isn't really something new. And with Travis's big monologue at the end, it honestly feels more random than anything. Now, I know that for the people who are gearing up to make a video response to this are going to misinterpret it and think, oh, he hates Alice because the Autarch ruined it for him. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that the emotional scenes in this fight didn't have as much of an impact on me as they did on everyone else. So those scenes didn't propel Alice to the top of my list like they did for a bunch of other people. I don't hate this boss fight. I mean, it wouldn't be on the list if I did. There's just 8 bosses in the series that I like more. In No More Heroes 2, there's 51 assassins in the UAA that you need to take down, as opposed to just 10 in the first game. However, you only end up fighting a total of 15 bosses. And one of the biggest reasons for that is the fact that in the fight with Charlie and Macdonald, you take out half of the UAA in one fight. That's because Charlie and all his cheerleaders come together to form a giant robot. And you get your own giant robot and proceed to wail away on them. The gameplay in this fight sort of changes to a 2D fighter style. It works well and it's nice to have some variety. And yeah, the concept of having a giant robot battle in the middle of the city is just plain awesome. The music in this fight, which unfortunately you're not hearing right now because I couldn't download it, is pretty awesome and very fitting for a sports event, which makes a lot of sense considering Charlie is a football player. Not much more to say here, on to the next entry. You know, if there was one part of the original No More Heroes that really got me angry, you know, aside from the whole town segment, it was the fight with Let's Shake. You go through this really annoying and boring level until you finally make it to the boss fight, which looks like it's going to be awesome. But then Henry comes right the heck out of nowhere and destroys the thing and you get no boss fight. At least they kind of make up for it in No More Heroes 2. Apparently the brain controlling the machines managed to survive getting cut in half and is now seeking revenge on both Henry and Travis. And it succeeded in getting revenge on Henry. So concept's pretty good. How's the fight itself? Well, it's also pretty sweet. In this fight, you basically have to go up to Let's Shake and hit him. While doing that though, you also have to avoid his earthquake attack, which he can hit you with from just about anywhere in the entire arena. Dr. Let's Shake himself is also fairly interesting. He talks like a robot, as you would imagine, and listening to him is fairly entertaining. I guess the best thing to say about Dr. Let's Shake is better late than never. You know, in terms of character alone, Destroy Man would probably be my favorite, at least on this list. Here he is, the split personality psycho who dresses like a superhero and yells out the name of his attacks as soon as he uses them. The fight on its own is good enough, you have to avoid his attacks and go over and hit him, and at one point he flies up in the air and you have to destroy a couple boxes to get him down. But what makes the fight for me is Destroy Man himself, whether it be how he screams the name of his attacks right before he uses them, or just how entertaining of a character this guy is in general. The fight would be good on its own, but it's Destroy Man's entertaining personality that really makes it fun. Also, am I the only one who's wondering about the music? Don't get me wrong, it's good and memorable, but it's also kinda weird. It doesn't really seem like the type of theme for a superhero battle, but it's okay, I guess. Well, you saw the fight I like mainly for the character, now for the fight that I like mainly for the music. Yeah, you know it's Margret Moonlight. Fun fact, I played No More Heroes 2 on easy mode, and due to the difficulty difference or something, I actually found Margret to be the hardest boss in the game. I'm not kidding, it took me around 10 tries to beat Margret, yet I beat Jasper Bat Jr. on my first try. I guess easy mode's just weird like that. It took me a while to get the hang of dodging all her bullets while making my way up to her and making sure that my beam katana didn't run out of energy while doing so. But I never really minded all that. Why? Because the music was so good. I know that's kind of a petty reason to like a boss fight, but have you heard the music in this fight? It's super catchy and really good. It's called Philistine. Look it up. It's not just the music though, it's the music combined with the challenge of this fight that really work together and make it really enjoyable. You know, putting Alice at number 9 isn't my only controversial opinion when it comes to No More Heroes. I also really don't like Henry. I know that a lot of people like him, but for me, it kinda just feels like his main purpose throughout the games is to deprive you of awesome boss fights. But since he also gives you an awesome boss fight in the original, I guess I can forgive him. The fight with Henry is the only optional boss fight in the entire series. The process of getting here is somewhat annoying, but it's worth it in the end for the fight. I mean, just looking at this guy's combos, it feels like you're taking down someone who's really powerful. And it all happens in a motel parking lot. And he also has the flashiest insta-kill attack in the entire series. Not much more to say really, the fight really feels like a good match of equals. Oh yeah, and that cutscene at the end is freaking hilarious. You know, I like magic shows, and if I've learned anything from Now You See Me, it's that when you mix magic shows and intense action, you're gonna have a good time. I mean, the fight even starts off promising, with Travis escaping from a seemingly inescapable death trap. And so begins the fight with Harvey Moisevich Wolodarski. And yes, I only put his initials in the text below because I'm not even gonna try to spell his name. Harvey fights you with 2 lances on a pretty colorful stage. But you're not here about that, you want to hear about the magic. Harvey can do a variety of things with magic, such as teleporting away, turning the screen upside down, and even locking you inside an exploding box for a pretty easy to avoid insta-kill. Interestingly enough, the guy I got this footage from only had the attack used on him once, yet when I fought Harvey, he used the attack on me around 5 times. I guess it just took a while to defeat him. It doesn't matter. Harvey's still a really entertaining boss fight. You fight a lot of weird enemies in the No More Heroes series, but I would argue that it's pretty weird even for these games to have you fighting against an entire space program. Or more specifically, Captain Vladidmir and his satellite that still takes orders from him for some reason. The music, combined with the fact that you're fighting an astronaut who uses lasers in the middle of a cornfield, really gives a good sci-fi feeling to this fight. You know how I said I found Margret to be the hardest boss in the game? Well, I found Captain Vladidmir to be the second hardest. Rather than being saved by the music, however, the fight's just saved by being really creative and fun. One of the biggest challenges of this fight is the fact that Captain Vladidmir has a shield in front of him, so you have to attack him from the back. Captain Vladidmir has a wide range of attacks, whether it be a laser he shoots from his face mask and then rotates so he can hit you anywhere in the arena so long as you're standing still, hurling asteroids at you, or even firing a giant laser from his space shuttle at you. And at the end of the fight, you kind of feel bad for the poor guy. I mean, he spent all these years was killing people, thinking he was still in space and never realizing that he had returned to Earth. And it really is a bittersweet moment when he finally realizes that he's been on Earth this entire time. But the fight really gets me thinking, if Captain Vladidmir thought he was in space this entire time and didn't know what he was doing, how the heck did he manage to get to rank 3 in the UAA? I guess Sylvia signed him up and tricked him into killing a bunch of people, but taking advantage of an old man's feeble mental state sounds low even by her standards. Well, I guess it's just a mystery that we'll never know the answer to. You know what the funny part about this number 1 is? If you see my No More Heroes vs No More Heroes 2, then you probably know what it's going to be. If not, then you're probably going to be caught off guard. But anyway, my favorite No More Heroes boss is Bad Girl. I'm well aware that this boss is kind of a weird pick and wouldn't be the first thing to come to most people's heads when they think of the best boss in the series, but for me, this fight has gotta be my favorite. The way I see it, Destroy Man had the best character, Margret had the best music, Captain Vladidmir had the best story, and Bad Girl has the best gameplay. And if you remember, at the beginning of the video, I said while I'll be taking other things into account, gameplay will be my main concern. So what makes me put this fight above all the others? Well, I don't find it really that easy to explain, but I guess I just find it the most intense and fun. Bad Girl uses a baseball bat against you, which surprisingly enough is a match for your beam katana. She can also use her baseball bat to hit gimps off of the conveyor belt that function both as projectiles and as enemies. Also, halfway through the fight, her attacks become even stronger when she lights her baseball bat on fire. Oh, and you better not attack her when she starts crying, otherwise she'll insta-kill you. Funny story, I actually knew about that going into the fight, yet somehow I still fell for it. The fight also feels intense because you're in a closed-off area fighting a complete maniac. I know that most of the other battlefields in this series are isolated as well, but something just feels different about the batting room. I can't explain it. And the music in this fight, while not my favorite, is still pretty enjoyable. And at the end of the fight, I like how Bad Girl's so desperate to win that she tries to kill Travis even though she's been impaled. In the end, this boss fight really had it all: an entertaining character, a good boss theme, a satisfying ending, and at least in my opinion, the most intense and fun gameplay of any boss fight in the series. I'm Defophilizer, and I know you're probably going to disagree with me, so I'm curious, what are your favorite bosses in the No More Heroes series? Leave a comment down below telling me. Unless of course you haven't played any of the games in the series, in which case that might be a bad idea.